Hi, Mrs. Burns' class. Mrs. Auber here. So last time we were together, we finished our book. So today we're going to start a new one, and it's a favorite of mine from when I was a child. And it is called Frog and Toad Together by Arnold Lobel. Remember, as I'm reading, I need to turn the book to me so I can see the words. But when I'm finished, I promise I will turn it towards you so you can see the pictures. A list. One morning, Toad sat in bed. I have many things to do, he said. I will write them on a list so that I can remember them. Toad wrote on a piece of paper, a list of things to do today. Then he wrote, wake up. I have done that, said Toad, and he crossed out, wake up. Then Toad wrote other things on the paper. A list of things to do today. Wake up, eat breakfast, get dressed, go to Frog's house, take a walk with Frog, eat lunch, take a nap, play games with Frog, eat supper, go to sleep. There, said Toad. Now my day is all written down. He got out of bed and had something to eat. Then Toad crossed out, eat breakfast. That's a lot of work, keeping a list and crossing things off. Toad took his clothes out of the closet and he put them on. Then he crossed out, get dressed. Toad put the list in his pocket. He opened the door and walked out into the morning. Soon, Toad was at Frog's front door. He took the list from his pocket and crossed out, go to Frog's house. Toad knocked at the door. Hello, said Frog. Look at my list of things to do, said Toad. Oh, said Frog. Well, that's very nice. Toad said, my list tells me that we will go for a walk. All right, said Frog. I'm ready. Frog and Toad went on a long walk. Then Toad took the list from his pocket again. He crossed out, take walk with Frog. Just then there was a strong wind. It blew the list out of Toad's hands. The list blew high up into the air. There it goes. Help! Cried Toad. My list is blowing away. What will I do without my list? Uh-oh. Do you think he can remember what he wrote on his list? Hurry, said Frog. We will run and catch it. No, shouted Toad. I cannot do that. Well, why not? Asked Frog. Because, wailed Toad, running after my list is not one of the things that I wrote on my list of things to do today. Frog ran after the list. He ran over hills and swamps, but the list blew on and on and on. At last, Frog came back to Toad. I'm sorry, gasped Frog, but I could not catch your list. Blah, said Toad. How do you think Toad is feeling? His list is gone. Sad? Angry? Yeah. I cannot remember any of the things that were on my list of things to do. Oh, I'll just have to sit here and do nothing, said Toad. Toad sat and did nothing. Frog sat with him. What a good friend. After a long time, Frog said, Toad, it is getting dark. We should be going to sleep now. Go to sleep, shouted Toad. That was the last thing on my list. Toad wrote on the ground with a stick, go to sleep. Then he crossed it out. There, said Toad, now my day is all crossed out. I'm glad, said Frog. Then Frog and Toad went right to sleep. And that is the end of that Frog and Toad story. The next one is called The Garden. Frog was in his garden. Toad came walking by. "What a fine garden you have, Frog," he said. "Yes," said Frog, "it is very nice, but it's hard work." "I wish I had a garden," said Toad. "Well, here are some flower seeds. Plant them in the ground," said Frog, "and soon you will have a garden." "How soon?" asked Toad. "Quite soon," said Frog. Toad ran home. He planted the flower seeds. "Now seeds," said Toad, "start growing." Toad walked up and down a few times. The seeds did not start to grow. Do you think flowers or any type of plant grows that quickly? No, it takes time, doesn't it? Toad put his head close to the ground and said loudly, "Now seeds, start growing." Toad looked at the ground again. The seeds did not start to grow. Toad put his head very close to the ground and shouted, "Now seeds, start growing." Frog came running up the path. "What is all this noise?" he asked. "My seeds will not grow," said Toad. "You're shouting too much," said Frog. "These poor seeds are afraid to grow." "My seeds are afraid to grow?" asked Toad. "Of course," said Frog. "Leave them alone for a few days. Let the sun shine on them. Let the rain fall on them. Soon your seeds will start to grow." Do you think he's right? Just needs to give him some time. Yeah. That night, Toad looked out of his window. "Drat," said Toad, "my seeds have not started to grow. They must be afraid of the dark." Toad went out to his garden with some candles. "I will read the seeds a story," said Toad. "Then they will not be afraid." Toad read a long story to his seeds. Oh, it's being sweet. All the next day, Toad sang to his seeds. And all the next day, Toad read poems to his seeds. And all the next day, Toad played music to his seeds. Do you think that worked? Maybe. Toad looked at the ground. The seeds still did not start to grow. "What shall I do?" cried Toad. "These must be the most frightened seeds in the whole world." Then Toad felt very tired and he fell asleep. "Toad, Toad, wake up," said Frog. "Look at your garden." Toad looked at his garden. Little green plants were coming up out of the ground. "At last," shouted Toad, "my seeds have stopped being afraid to grow. And now you will have a nice garden too," said Frog. "Yes," said Toad, "but you were right, Frog. It was very hard work." Okay. And that's where we will end today. Next time, we'll continue with our Frog and Toad Together stories. If you would like, you may, with your parents or adults, look up Frog and Toads. They are not the same. Yeah, did you know that? They're not the same. Ask your adults if you can look that up and see how they are different and maybe the same. Until next time.